Historically, The Gunfighters is a story that hasn't gotten much love from Doctor Who fans. For a long time it was considered one of the worst Doctor Who stories of all time. DWM readers ranked it the worst First Doctor story in 1998 and the 10th worst story overall in the whole show. There are plenty of scathing reviews you can find online, and even at the time it was disliked by audiences. The last 3 episodes had the lowest audience appreciation index scores that the show had ever seen up to that point of just 30%.
It's reasonably accomplished, I would say, but not great.
The most common complaints seen about this story are its historical inaccuracy, bad American accents, the costumes, the acting, and the famous song Ballad of the Last Chance Saloon, which plays frequently throughout the story. So there's not much there that people seem to like. In my opinion though, it's one of the absolute best stories of the Hartnell era. But first, let's go over the actual story. The famous gunman Doc Holliday has settled down in the town of Tombstone with his fiancée Kate to practice as a dentist.
The man you're looking for is the local dentist, yes.
But the Clanton brothers have ridden into Tombstone to get revenge on Holliday for killing their brother Reuben. When the TARDIS lands, the Doctor is in need of a dentist as he has a bad toothache after eating a sweet from the Celestial Toy Maker.
Oh, it serves you right for eating that sweet.
No sympathy from Stephen. The Doctor is mistaken for Doc Holliday by the Clantons, and the Sheriff Masterson and Marshal Wyatt Earp are trying to keep the real Holliday out of trouble, so they arrest the Doctor to try and prevent any violence, hoping the Clantons will leave town. Charlie the barman, however, sees the real Doc Holliday and tells the Clantons that they have misidentified the Doctor as Holliday. It's around this point that Johnny Ringo turns up.
Ringo.
Ringo! Oh, Ringo!
Yes, you've got a photograph of him here, look.
And kills Charlie. The Clanton brothers recruit Ringo to help them against Masterson, Earp and Holliday. While all this is happening, Holliday, Kate and Dodo unwillingly have fled town to stay safe and out of trouble, but Dodo forces Holliday to take her back to Tombstone at gunpoint.
We're leaving now.
Some of the Earp brothers arrive to help Wyatt, Masterson and Holliday against the Clantons, but Warren Earp is quickly gunned down by them at the end of episode 3. To avenge their brother, Virgil and Wyatt Earp decide to break the law and have a gunfight with the Clantons and Ringo, with the help of Doc Holliday. The gunfight takes place at sunup, and Johnny Ringo is quickly dispatched by Holliday, with the Clantons soon following in the gunfight. So that's the basic plot of the story. Now, on to why I think this story is really good and underrated. If you love westerns and you come into this story expecting a hard and gritty western with Clint Eastwood eyeing someone up in a gunfight like in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, then maybe this story isn't for you. From the offset, it's clear that you're not meant to take the western setting too seriously. The second Dodo and Stephen get into their caricature western costumes and start doing their terrible American accents, it should be pretty clear that this isn't a story where you should be hypercritical of the sets or historical accuracy. Just sit back, enjoy the ride, and have a few laughs. Also, the Doctor has a gun collection.
And remember, that belongs to my favourite collection.
You ain't wearing a gun.
Well, I should hope not. I certainly disapprove of violence.
I think the dialogue in this story is absolutely brilliant and filled with good jokes from the regulars and guest characters alike.
I'd blast you down as soon as spit at you.
Thanks.
Disgusting habit.
The scene where the Doctor enters the Last Chance Saloon and realises that the Clantons have mistaken him from Holliday is, I think, one of my favourite scenes in the entire show.
The Clanton brothers.
The Clanton brothers. Oh, dear. How do you do?
It's so funny and there's one great line after another. I also find the bad American accents unintentionally funny too. Peter Purves also does a great job in this story. I think Stephen is totally out of his depth and he's forced to sing and play the piano, which he actually does quite well. I guess they teach music in the astronaut schools of the future where Stephen comes from.
I sung this song 4 times already.
The title of Holiday for the Doctor for episode 1, as well as being a good pun, tells you exactly what to expect from this story. It's got last day of term vibes. The Doctor and co are just having a fun time this week. Don't take it too seriously. Season 3 is a very dark and serious season, which is great and it's why it's my favourite, But that makes this story a very welcome change of tone. I haven't even mentioned the scene when the Doctor gets his tooth removed yet.
Oh, my dear man, I never touch alcohol. Oh.
Well, I do.
Well, I must say this is most unprofessional.
I like to think that the kids watching at home who are afraid of going to the dentist would feel more confident knowing that the Doctor is also afraid, but can face his fear and go through with it. One of my favourite jokes in the story is one I don't see many other people mention. It's when Dodo and Holiday are watching the mob ride with Stephen to the jailhouse.
They got Stephen!
Pick up my operating chair. Wait here.
It's a running theme that Holiday is very attached to his operating chair throughout the story. People also dislike the ballad of the Last Chance Saloon song, which plays throughout the story. Though for me, it just blends into the atmosphere and I don't even notice it really. I think it's quite a good mood piece and actually quite a catchy song. There's a fair bit of ropey acting in this story, it can't be denied. Probably mainly I would say from the Clanton brothers, but not exclusively. And it's probably because a lot of the actors were forced to put on American accents which they weren't used to.
When that judge hears about you protecting Doc Holliday, just you see what happens.
To be honest though, this aspect of the story also doesn't really bother me, and if anything just adds to the comedic value of the story. Together with the cheap and cheerful sets, it gives the story a kind of charm which I think is so abundant in 60s Doctor Who. However, there is also some really good acting in the story too, I would say especially from Anthony Jacobs, who plays Doc Holliday.
That's real thoughtful.
He gives a very light comedic performance, but can also be threatening and sinister when needed. He's also the father of Matthew Jacobs, who wrote the 1996 Doctor Who TV movie, the other classic Doctor Who story to be set exclusively in America. I also think Lawrence Payne, who plays Johnny Ringo, is very good, John Alderson, who plays Wyatt Earp, is good, and Sheena Marsh, who plays Kate, all very good. In my opinion, the gunfight at the end of this story is superb, and one thing that people often don't understand about the fight is why the Earps don't get gunned down immediately when the Clantons start shooting at them, walking slowly towards them. The answer is quite simple, and is even said in the story. The revolvers that the Clantons are shooting don't have unlimited range. The Earps are out of range of the Clantons when the shooting starts. Ringo told the Clantons to do this before the battle.
Now don't forget, start firing before they get into range, and go on firing so they don't get a chance to look behind them, because that's where I'll be.
The Doctor's moral compass is also slightly confusing in this story. He says he has a gun collection, but he also disapproves of violence. He also interestingly says that he never touches alcohol and is only seen drinking milk in this story, which I love. But he does this despite the fact that he orders wine in the massacre and drinks champagne in the Feast of Stephen. But small things like that, whether the Doctor drinks or not, really aren't important. Perhaps it depends on the time and place for him. He also has a strangely positive attitude towards Doc Holliday. He praises him in quite a funny line as a great friend of his.
Holiday. Now, don't be ridiculous. Doc Holliday's a great friend of mine. He gave me a gun, he extracted my tooth. Good gracious me, what more do you want? Come along, boy, come along, come along.
Doctor, he's a...
Despite the fact that Doc Holliday gave him his gun in the hopes that the Clantons would shoot down the Doctor, mistaking him for Holliday. Now we come to perhaps the most obvious flaw in this story, its historical inaccuracy. For most people watching the story at the time when it first was transmitted, this probably wouldn't have bothered them since most British people probably haven't even heard of the gunfight at the OK Corral. So historical figures like Doc Holliday or Wyatt Earp probably wouldn't have meant much to them, unless you're Dodo.
Wyatt Earp!
Oh, something wrong, ma'am?
Oh, no, it's just that... Well, I always wanted to meet you, and here we are, face to face.
This story is incredibly inaccurate to the actual history. For instance, Johnny Ringo, who has an entire episode dedicated to him in this story, wasn't even involved in the gunfight at the OK Corral, and he certainly didn't die there. Ringo actually died a few months later from a gunshot wound that was undeniably self-inflicted, so neither Holliday nor the Earps can take credit for that. Morgan Earp was also present at the gunfight but not seen in the story, though he is mentioned. In the story, Phineas Clanton is shot dead by Virgil Earp in the gunfight at the end, but this also isn't accurate to the true history. In fact, Phineas Clanton wasn't even at the gunfight. He died 25 years later of pneumonia. So why Donald Cotton decided to include him, I really have no idea. On the Clanton side, there are also other gunfighters that aren't present in the story, such as Tom and Frank McLaury and Billy Claiborne, not to be confused with Billy Clanton, who does feature in the story. Wyatt Earp, who's the Marshal of Tombstone in this story, also wasn't even the Marshal of Tombstone in real life either. Virgil Earp was. There's no reason why they couldn't have just had Virgil Earp been the Marshal instead of Wyatt. It's very confusing. This mistake is very common though in media depictions of the history. It's also seen in the Star Trek episode, Spectre of the Gun. It's safe to say therefore that the Gunfighters plays fast and loose with historical accuracy, but I still greatly enjoy the end product regardless, and I think that's probably what Donald Cotton wanted. He wanted to include the most entertaining characters of the time to give the most entertaining story. Because at the end of the day, Doctor Who isn't a historical documentary or a book, it's entertainment. Any child watching at the time would have gotten a good basic understanding of the key players in the history of the American West, which I think's good. And also, when it comes to this period of history, there are a lot of conflicting accounts of how events took place. So I think this does give the story a bit of freedom to be a bit flexible with the actual historical details.
Oh, good thing I didn't have to have my tonsils out.
Especially as the gunfight at the OK Corral, a bit like the Trojan War and the Mythmakers, is a myth. Many different stories have been told about it, and it's been retold in many different forms over many generations. Aspects of the story have been changed countless times. So I like the fact that Doctor Who is part of that great tradition of delving into historical and mythic stories like the Trojan War and the gunfight at the OK Corral. Another interesting point about this story is that while Kate Fisher is a fictional character, she's clearly based on Doc Holliday's real wife with the unfortunate nickname of Big Nose Kate Horney. Don't know why they had to be so rude. The interesting thing about this is that Big Nose Kate died at the age of 90 in 1940 when Hartnell was 32 years old. So the historical character was alive within the lifetime of the stars of the show, which I just find crazy. Nowadays, I think the Gunfighters enjoys a much more favourable reputation than it did back in the 90s. More people have been able to watch it themselves on home media, I suppose. The Gunfighters was released on DVD alongside The Awakening for some reason, which, I think that must be one of the most bizarre combinations ever. The very first release of the Gunfighters, though, was in 2003, which is one of the last VHSs in the Doctor Who line. So fans in the 90s wouldn't really have had a way to watch the story, so their impressions of it would have come from what they'd heard from people who watched it at the time, which, judging from the Audience Appreciation Index, wouldn't have been favourable. But yeah, if you dislike the Gunfighters and have a very negative view of it, if you enjoyed this video, I recommend giving it a good rewatch. Don't take it too seriously and just try and have a laugh. I always do when I watch it.
I was just practicing my quick draw. Oh, do be careful, dear boy.
So yeah, thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe.
Are you going to be all right?